Thank you very much. A couple of weeks back, I was out in Austin, Texas, and I was pulling into the JW Marriott right off of Congress. And I got there, and I noticed there's this massive line of people to get to the valet. So I did what any road warrior would do. I picked up the phone and called and said, okay, where is this self-parking at? Got a really nice gentleman on the phone, Andrew, and he gave me directions on how to get to the self-parking. Followed the directions, and then I got to where the self-parking is, and it was closed. And I was upset with Andrew, so I had to ask him some questions. And I'm like, Andrew, can you love someone more than you love yourself? Because I was really mad. Because you don't understand, if you're stuck on Congress and trying to get to JW Marriott, you're looking at another 30 to 45 minutes to make it back around the block. This is the answer I got. It tells me that I wasn't talking to a real person. You know? He said that's a uniquely human experience. Then I asked him again, do you really feel empathy? Because I felt he didn't really understand me. Didn't understand how upset I was at that moment. Because now I have to drive all the way back around Austin again. Again, a uniquely human experience. Finally, one of the drivers that when we talk to companies, we talk to individuals, we ask them what motivates you. So I was thinking to myself, how does this agent now, I know I'm working with an AI agent, not have any kind of motivation to give at least decent customer service, never mind superior customer service, and again, not motivated the same way we are. So you got to ask yourself, everybody today has been talking about artificial intelligence and where we're going. This is really the introduction of one of your new peers, someone that you may be working with day in and day out, because the Marriott currently has an actual AI agent that answers their phone, and you can't really tell the difference between that agent and a real person. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how we got here, and then also what we can do to create a more human-centric type of environment for the people we work with every day and the companies that we work with. We look at it and we know there's 5 big trends that are driving this, because it's really these trends that are taking us from where we are today and driving the companies. All the panels that we talked to and listened to today, we're talking about how they're trying to drive culture, how they're trying to empower their employees, and how they're looking to retain employees. And it's these trends that are really driving some of this. So we talked about the rise of AI. That's a big driver, but it's also a big assistant to help us find productivity and innovative new ways to do things. The other piece we have is a massive demographic shift. We know there's a baby boomer generation. We're seeing a lot of people come up on retirement age. That's fine. We knew that was coming. However, during COVID, it broke the mold. We had predictions on how many people were going to retire, but they vastly exceeded what the expectations were. The other piece we look at is we've had almost a 20% drop in the amount of people actively involved in the labor market. We've had one of the lowest birth rates in record. When my parents had 6 kids. A lot of my friends were families of 3 or 4 kids. I look at my peer group today, maybe 1 or 2 children. So we've seen a significant decrease. So with all these retirements, fewer workers, a lower birth rate, and all these changes, it's impacting our organizations and the organizations we work with every day. The other trend we see is we have a younger generation working. And my opinion, and with the companies I work with through Berkman, I've seen these companies drive not only the mentality for like a Gen Z, but they drive it back to earlier generations as well. Because they're really focused on, show me that you want me to succeed. We also see that the younger generation wants to see a group of people that are going to have a positive impact in the world they work with. Everybody, like if you listen to the panels earlier this morning, and they talked about the shift in DEI, it's not like any of these companies are going to stop doing any of the things that were making a positive difference for the people they work for, they're going to continue doing it. They just may be doing it in a different way. The other and the final piece is they know change is consistent. And this relates back to my youngest daughter, Chloe. Chloe right now is a freshman in college. But as a freshman, she had to work through taking online classes during COVID. And this was a big change. She's 16 years old. She's sitting there at home. She's happy as pie, going to class, hanging out with her friends. And my daughter's as extroverted as I am some days. But then she was forced to work in her bedroom every day, have online classes, and go through a massive amount of change. And then go back to school again and kind of get reacquainted with all the people she worked with. So the workforce today, they have to have this mindset of going deeper into study, but then also having a broad array to do a lot of different things. She wants to be an anesthesiologist. So I asked her, I said, Chloe, why don't you just a chem major or bio major, do the pre-med track? Because she's a nutrition science major. And her answer to me shocked me because she told me, she's like, Dad, why would I want to just do that? If I change my mind, I'm kind of stuck. What am I going to do with the bio major? She's like, I'm doing the nutrition science because I know if I get to the end of 4 years and I change my mind, I don't want to be a doctor. She goes, this is exactly what she said. She goes, I'm a good-looking girl. I can get a job selling pharmaceuticals. So she has this broad spectrum where she knows I need to go deep on this, but she can do a lot of different things. Other trend is people are putting the relationship between culture and also profit. If you're here this morning and you listen to the interim chief people officer at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, one of the things he talked about that was a key differentiator for him and his team was the fact that they value culture and that the leadership team there is really looking to build and develop a strong culture because they know the stronger their culture is, it lowers their turnover, increases employee engagement, and also generates more profits for the company. The companies we work with Berkman oftentimes are looking for ways where they can come together better as a team. I was sitting in the wings, I was listening to the speaker talk about psychological safety, and I was like, oh my gosh, another person out there talking about how important psychological safety is. And it is really a critical piece. That ability to speak up and speak your mind without fear of retribution is a huge driver in organizations and helps bring that culture together and helps the organizations turn more profit. And we have two choices. One of them is we have to embrace AI. That train has left the station, and as one of my old bosses used to tell me, Rob, you're either on the train or you're on the tracks. So we kind of have to get on the train with that one. The other piece is improving the employee experience. My mom used to always tell me, Robert, this is when I was in trouble, like, Robert, control what you can control. What you can't control, just ignore it. Let it go. This is something we as leaders and people that we work with, we can control. Creating this human-centric type mindset for the people we work with every day. And that's the next step what we're going to talk about today is what can we do about this? With all this change happening around us, with all this AI coming into play, with agents that give me wrong directions to the wrong parking garage, that don't love, have no empathy, and can't be motivated, what are we going to do? So we have to motivate our employees. We have to really appreciate what they bring to the table every day. We can't have this short-term mindset anymore. And then finally, it has to be mutually beneficial. We have to know that we're in it together to work together to get where we want to go. Like we know, Berkman, we work with a lot of different companies. And the data shows us that employees want a workplace that value them as individuals. And I ask, so what's your story? Because each person has a unique story to tell. And I'm not asking in the way my wife asks me after she's texting with my friends' wives from a night out with the boys. So, what's your story? No. I'm really asking because everybody has a unique story, and you have to be curious about the people you work with and be able to ask them, what's your story? Where are you in your birth order? Where are you from? What has kind of formed you as an individual? Why do you think that way? So we really work to retain and invest and engage in our employees in developing this whole person mindset. A lot of times we look at individuals and we think about it as an FTE. Like we work with organizations and they're going through these massive transformations. And I cringe whenever a leader says to me, hey, Rob, we're going to look at this. We have 10,000 employees. We have to reduce our headcount by 500 FTEs. And if you don't know, a FTE is a full-time equivalent. They're just a number on a page. And that is how a lot of companies view employees. They don't view them as a whole person. They don't view them as somebody who is an equal partner that they're going to work with day in and day out. So we really want to create value for the employees. So how do we do that? We have organizations that care about their employees as much as they care about what they're going to deliver. So people will think about sometimes and say, okay, I'm just going to be focused on what this person can produce, and that's it. And people get that. They understand that. They feel that. They feel that I'm just a cog in the wheel. But we really want to make sure that we work with them to care about them as much as they care about helping the organization. So how do you show your employees that you care about them at work? Like we talked about, they're really people. And we want to understand that whole person. And we look at it, the way we do at Berkman is we look at it overall at different dimensions. We think about the individual from a physical standpoint. We think about them from an emotional standpoint. We think about them from a spiritual standpoint and an intellectual standpoint. They're not just an FTE. They're not a full-time equivalent or number on a piece of paper. We're looking at the whole person. And we use, with our clients and people we work with, we know they take this integrated approach where they start and they look and see with the different parts of the person. What's their usual behavior? How do they operate under stress? What environment do they need to really succeed and deliver their best product? And we look at that from an individual standpoint, and then we look at it from a team standpoint, and then we look at it for conflict and people working with each other day in and day out. And we know when we really understand that whole person, we can get to the point where we can help the organizations either A, find the optimal performance structure for that individual, or help that person find that optimal performance structure for themselves. I work with a lot of different folks at Berkman, and we joke about it all the time. I am in that red quadrant. So I am driven, task-driven, and very extroverted. I can be super annoying. Yes. But I have Paige, I'm not sure where Paige is, she's on my team. But I know when I'm working with Paige and I'm talking to Paige that I know she cares about me when she's listening to my concerns, okay? I go into her office and some days I do need to vent and I can talk to somebody. And she is the best listener, but I know I can do that. I also know I have Taylor over here. Taylor's great because I know she cares when we can have casual banter. Like we like to give, Jordan and myself like to give her a hard time because she's from Canada and says that her Z is funny. But it's the casual banter that we enjoy having, but we know that. And then we also have another person on our team. She keeps us kind of aligned and organized. And although I may find it slows me down sometimes, but we know that she cares about us by asking the hard questions, by really digging into the details on what we do with stuff to make sure we stay aligned. And then for me, when I'm working with folks, they can know I care because I'm helping drive them to be more efficient. Maybe sometimes in a good way, maybe sometimes in not such a good way. But I also know that through experience to working with individuals to make sure we do that. The other thing we know when we're working with world-class organizations is they really slow down and focus on the investment before results. So we know that it takes time, money, and effort to really generate the results we're looking for. you have to put the time, money, and effort into it to really get the results you need. It's only once you look at that culture of caring. Like I know the panel before me, they were talking about this, and it's really critical that you have that kind of culture of caring where you're looking at the individual, looking at the whole person, and then pulling it all together. So the first step is to be curious about the whole person. This curiosity comes in a lot of different ways. It's just asking the right question. It's understanding the individual's behavioral style. Understand what their dominant behavioral style is so you can help pull that together and start asking more. Some people know that my side hustle is a speaker for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And when I started working with the speakers committee for the rodeo, one of the things we had to do was go through an audition process. The first step was we had to stand up in front of all the new recruits, and I was a rookie recruit, and explain to everybody why I wanted to join the speakers committee. This is when we really were able to focus on the individual, and they were able to share their true self, their story of them growing up either in Houston or on a farm outside of Houston, and how when they would come to the rodeo as a kid, show their own animals, or just come with a parent who they'd lost, and they had these memories of spending time at the rodeo. And these are the stories, the curiosity, that help you really dig into understanding the person and having that whole person experience with the person. There was one woman I worked with, and it was amazing talking with her, because the reason she started getting involved with the speakers committee and the rodeo was her grandmother was one of the first barrel racers to compete as a female in the rodeo. She came prepared. She had photos, she had stories, and really shared with us what framed her as a person. And it's just by asking that one simple question, why do you want to do this? That we were able to really get a sense of how well the person was able to speak, if they were able to speak as well. And then also understanding what their motivation is to be there and to give of themselves back to Houston, back to the rodeo. So I hate to listen to a keynote presentation and not leave with any actionable insights. So this is like a little cheat sheet. You can take a photo of it. We're going to be back at our booth after this session. Come by, we can send you the link. But it's really going deeper. When you walk by people you work with every day in the hallway, I'll ask somebody, how are you? You just, off the cuff, you say, good, great. How was your weekend? Oh, it was fine. But the reality is, to really understand the person, you need to ask deeper questions. How are you feeling? Drive a little deeper. And then the most important part of that is to want to know. To want to know about that individual at that deeper level so you can understand what's really going on with them. A lot of times we're busy, we don't want to stop, we don't want to take the time. But the reality is, as you're building that culture in your organization, it's getting to know the whole person at a different level that's going to help your organization and your team succeed. So come by, you can get a copy of this afterwards. So the question I leave you with is, how is your organization integrating the whole person into work? And I ask you to tell me your story. Because you can slow down, tell me your story, connect with me and say, okay, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. Thank you very much. My name is Rob Thompson from Berkman. It's been my pleasure talking with you guys today. Have a great rest of your day.